stick to the time frame and be able to finish before 5 o'clock, so you all can move on to your evening. And I will turn it over to our next presenters who are going to speak on how to work in school gardens with an equity lens.
Hi everyone, so I'm Deja. I received my bachelor's degree from Wesleyan University in Connecticut in neuroscience and behavior and African American studies. And a large part of what I studied was public health related issues such as community and behavioral health, so schizophrenia, cognition, healthcare communication, things along that lines. But actually when I studied abroad in Cape Town, South Africa, I realized that I really love food insecurity and it related a ton towards health, no brainer. And I brought that research back with me for my senior thesis, and I studied how food environments and food insecurities impact the health of a population using 2 historically Black housing projects in Baltimore City. And now I'm completing my master's degree at the University of Iowa in psychology, and I intern at Johnson County Public Health as well. And I am hoping to go on to a master's in public health program following finishing this master's. So.
My name is Ilsa DeWald. I currently work at Johnson County as a local foods coordinator. I got started in food systems at the University of Iowa Student Garden, learning about growing food, but also about the beneficial relationships that can form when you're, and just like the love and energy that goes into growing food together, and then being able to prepare the food together, eat the food together, share stories about it. And after school, I studied environmental science and sustainability. I went on to work at North Liberty Community Pantry as the garden coordinator and volunteer coordinator. I did a lot of nutrition education with folks using the pantry, and did a lot of education with volunteers about how to process or store vegetables that were getting donated, and did a lot of education all around. So I'm gonna let Deja start.
Okay, so I want to be completely transparent to start that I've been not feeling the best. So if my brain is all over the place, that's why. But I'm super excited about this topic, and I'm so happy that you all are here with me. So I just wanted to start with some facts. And this looks like a lot of information, and it is, but the overarching theme is that food insecurity is prevalent and it's persistent in our environment, whether it be in Iowa, in your local neighborhood, or even on a national and international level. So it's not impartial to race, right? So when we look at it, there's 16 million children overall that go to bed hungry every day. There are over 30 million Americans that live in places that lack a healthy food environment, one that is far away from supermarkets, one that is really close to convenience stores or mom and pop shops, one that is plagued with a lot of fast food restaurants that are easier to get to, may cost more, but definitely is less healthier than some of the alternatives, right? So, and 8% of rural families are living in food insecurity, which means, or living in a food desert, which means they're 10 miles or more from a supermarket. So if you don't have a car or transportation in those environments, it can be nearly impossible to get to places where there's affordable, fresh fruits and vegetables and produce, right? And so supermarkets like to be picky. If we think about it, supermarkets are a business, right? They're a business like no other. They want to make money. They want to maximize their profits. So they go into their business model and say, where can we place ourselves where we can make the most money, where we won't have to deal with maybe people are stealing so much, so poverty or crime, where we may be, not having to deal with things like food stamps, where we won't make as much money as the dollar gives us. And so they're businesses. They don't want to go into these low-income, maybe ethnic or racially separated neighborhoods where they won't make as much. And so that severely impacts the food environment. So when we talk about what is food security is not having access to healthy, fresh, culturally appropriate foods, right? So I mentioned studying abroad in Cape Town, and I'll bring my story, to a lot of my story to this presentation today. When I went in with my American lens on, I said, okay, we need to get them more apples, we need to get them more kale, we need to get them more carrots. And I was immediately told, okay, Deja, but if you give people these things and they don't eat it and it's not part of their culturally relevant meals or part of what they eat on a daily, one, they won't know what to do with it. And two, they're more likely to dismiss what you have to say because it doesn't apply. And so we want to think about all of those things when we think about food insecurity and giving people what they need. We want to bring them to the table, right? And so very food insecure is at times during the year you have one or more family members who's disrupted in their food intake. And these are places where maybe mom or dad is sacrificing their meals to feed their children for that night instead of them eating. Then we have low food insecurity, where households have reduced quality or variety. Maybe they go to the same place where the only vegetables they eat are broccoli and carrots, right? Or maybe they go somewhere that have a variety of vegetables, but they're not the healthiest, or they're molded, or they're bruised, right? We have marginally food security, so people have problems and anxiety about addressing adequate food insecurity, but they generally can get it, right? They might have to budget more, they might have anxiety over grocery shopping because, oh my God, the food bill, what am I gonna spend on this? But they can get it. And then we have people who are food secure. They don't worry about having to buy food, they don't have to worry about where they'll get it. They have transportation to food, right? They have food variety, food choice, the foods are culturally appropriate. They can access what they need, what they want, and the quality that they can get in their pay scale, and that's all important. So I was going to do an activity in at the beginning of this, which I'm just going to talk through, where there's lots of things we have to think about when we think about food insecurity. You might have somebody that have the funds, but maybe they don't have the transportation, right? So they budget for the food, but they don't budget for the cost that it'll take to get to the supermarket and get back to the supermarket. My grandmother actually lived in one of those historically black housing projects that I mentioned that I studied for my senior thesis, and the supermarket away from her was an 8-minute walk to the bus stop, a 40-minute bus ride, then a 10-minute walk to the supermarket. And if you think about going there, you're like, okay, maybe me as being a healthy 23-year-old, that doesn't seem too daunting. Okay, I can do that. But then my problem would be, okay, I have to carry back the groceries, so I'm limited in what I can even buy at the supermarket, which may mean I'm making more frequent trips. But for someone who's older or who have less accessibility, who have less mobility, that could be a really daunting problem for them. Or you have somebody that can have transportation, so they have the car, the supermarket is close, but they don't have the funds. And then we want to talk about those marginally accessible people, those who make slightly above what it takes to get food assistance, and so they don't technically make enough to actually eat like they want to, and to eat healthy, but they don't make as low to get that assistance. So they're living in this really great area where they're still struggling, but they don't have assistance. So here's the cycle of food insecurity. And I mentioned that I looked at food insecurity from the lens of health. So I'm a psychologist by training. And so you are first food insecure. So we start up here, right? You are food insecure, okay. What's happening? Now you're doing coping strategies. So maybe instead of buying fresh vegetables, you're buying canned vegetables that have a lot of sodium in it, that have a lot of sugar, preservatives, things of that nature. Maybe your eating behaviors are changing. So instead of 3 meals, you might eat 2 meals, right? Or you might just buy a lot of snacks and chips to compensate for those missed calories, right? Then you go down and you're looking at chronic diseases. Okay, so now I'm consuming more sugar, now I'm consuming more salt, now I'm not getting the necessary vitamins and nutrients, so maybe I'm getting high blood pressure, maybe I'm getting diabetes, I'm getting something that's relating directly to my food intake. So then we go over here and we go see a doctor, right? So when we're not feeling well, everyone says, well, why don't you go see a doctor? And so I mentioned I haven't been feeling well, and everyone says, well, go see a doctor. And it's like, okay, I'm a student, and yes, I am fortunate enough to have student insurance, but you know, for some people that's not a thing. They don't have health insurance. They can't just run to the doctor. So now their healthcare costs are going up if they're even going to see a doctor.